Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC-Mura here, and in today's video we're gonna talk all about Rose and how you can use her in Street Fighter 5. So let us get started. So what type of character is Rose? In my opinion, Rose is a mixture of a zoning and a set play character. You will find that the range on her heavy normals is very strong. Back heavy kick, standing heavy punch, and the sweep. All four of these are very long and that is pretty good. She have a decent fireball and she can play the fireball game. The recovery is quite nice and the variance in the speed between the light, medium, and heavy can keep the opponent on their toes. One of the best things about Rose is her ability to fill the screen with hitboxes. You can have about 4 hitboxes at the same time. The tempos goes like this. It's a fireball that is uncontested or a knockdown. So like an EX fireball, soul punish into V-skill, into fireball, into soul punish, into V-skill, into fireball, into soul punish, etc, etc, and you keep looping it. And if you look at this, you can have the 2 satellites, the soul punish and the fireball. That is a total of 4 different projectiles on the screen at the same time. That is very powerful for Street Fighter. And this is also complemented by her ability to anti-air. If your opponent was jumping in on you, she has the soul bind. This will anti-air from a very long distance, as you can see. And even if you can't do that, the crouching heavy punch is a pretty reliable and easy to use anti-air that will hit even directly above her head. One of the things about Rose that cannot be understated is her ability to convert into big damage out of the anti-airs, especially if she's in V-trigger. And this goes for either of the V-triggers. If your opponent is jumping gun on you, you can do something like this, right? And that is like 440 damage. That is like almost 42% with 1 bar, and we gain half of that bar back if you look at the meter below. So that is very powerful. And if you have the V-trigger 1, of course you can do almost the same thing. Let's say Ryu is gonna jump, right? And then you combo into super, and that is also very big damage out of anti-air. So her zoning game is powerful. She can fill the screen with projectile, she have long range, and she can get some really damaging anti-airs when she's in V-trigger. All of that is fantastic. Rose also have a strong set play element. This comes in forms of her V-triggers. Both of them have this element to them. Let's say you knock your opponent down, throw fireball, and voila, you are mixing them up, right? This can be done with either of the V-triggers. Let's say for example that you got a crush counter, right? You can set like a soul punish here and then teleport and which side do I block on, etc, etc. Of course there are a ton of resets and set plays with the soul illusion V-trigger or V-trigger 2, right? You can set up set plays like that and then go for a right left mix up. So the mix ups on her V-triggers is very strong. So is it all awesome for Rose? Well, not really. She have a couple of issues. The first one is her bad range. I know I said that Rose have very strong range earlier, and that is on her heavy normals. The issue with Rose is that in the mid-range or the dash distance, right around here, the range on her normals are kinda lacking. As you can see, her mediums are very short and the lights are all short. The crouching light kick have decent range, but the mediums and the light in general have bad range. And the only one with range is the forward medium kick, but as you can see, this is -6 on block, so that is very slow and very unsafe. It's very slow and very unsafe, making it very hard to use. So the dash distance or this distance with Rose is a very big issue. Another issue with Rose is her lack of 3 frame. Rose only have a 4 frame light, and she does have a 5 frame medium, so it is not the end of the world. Not having a 3 frame light is an issue defensively, of course. She also does not have a true reversal. The EX spiral, this is strike invincible from frame 1, but it is slow at 13 frame startup, and you can get thrown out of it, so that is quite an issue. So in general, she does lack in the mid range or the dash distance, and she does lack a little bit on defense. Also, her walk speed is quite slow, which is unfortunate, but she does have good range to make up for it. Another thing, and that is in my opinion the final weakness to her, is that her practical damage output is quite low. Like if you do a bread and butter combo mid-screen like that, you're getting 186 damage for a medium confirm. That is not very much. You kinda have to rely on her target combo for damage. So you kinda have to rely on this target combo for damage, but the issue is that this will only hit standing opponents. If they're crouching, it doesn't hit, and she have kind of bad OK on the spiral. But if you are back rising, you can fill up a soul punish and then go for the satellite, so it is not that big of a deal. So as we always do, let's start out by talking about the character normals. So we will talk about Rose normals, and we're gonna start with the light. One of the best things about Rose is that all 4 of her lights are actually text rows. So you can use the crouching light kick and then throw your opponent, crouching jab and then throw, standing jab and then throw, and standing light kick and then throw. However, one of the things that makes the standing light punch stand out is that it is a +2 normal. And because it is +2, if your opponent meshes is 3 frame, so here Nash will mesh is 3 frame. If your opponent meshes is 3 frame and you try, for example, to take out of the crouching light punch, which is only +1, you will get hit out of it. The same for the other lights, right? However, the standing light punch will actually throw them. So because it is +2, it is her best dex throw, right? That is one of the key elements to it. And it is 4 frames and it is +2 on hit. So you can actually get to frame trap with it into itself, and then convert or counter hit combo into something like crouching medium punch, as you can see, and get the knockdown, right? Then set up the punish and the satellite, etc, etc, etc. So the crouching light punch is good for frame traps, it's good for of course for text throws as well, and you can use it in combos. If your opponent is standing, you can combo into the target combo, so that is nice. Or you can combo it into itself, into light spiral or EX spiral, if you just want that big damage. It's a pretty decent normal overall, but it does have lower range if they are crouching. This is something that I kinda have to address, right? It is longer if he is standing than it is if they are crouching. And next up we have the crouching light punch. The crouching light punch is pretty nice. It's also 4 frames, chains into itself, and then you get the spiral. Obviously you can also do it out of the crouching light kick. So this is a chain and this is a chain. If your opponent is a 4 frame character, if your opponent does not have a 3 frame, then you can text throw with it, but otherwise I would recommend using the standing light punch for text throws. So this is more for frame traps. You obviously of course can use it to frame trap as well. If Nash is mashing here, it is +1, right? But because it chains into itself, you can frame trap with it into itself, but you don't get much, right? Like as you can see there, because of the range, you don't get much. So unless you're chaining or unless you're fighting versus 4 frame characters, this crouching light punch is not typically useful, right? It's not that fantastic. The other one is the crouching light kick, and the crouching light kick is actually fantastic. This normal is pretty strong for many reasons. One of the best of them is that it chains into itself 3 times. So even if you're like wanting to punish something, right, you can like mash it into itself 3 times. You're getting like 50 damage, And you can do it twice. Activate V trigger, gonna leave you at a +5. So then you can get like a medium here, right? It's not that much, but at least you're getting something out of it, right? And like I said earlier, it is a text row, but obviously it is 0 on block, but you can text row after it. And because of its range, you can actually get some good counter hit conversions with this because of its chain ability, right? So you can do something like this: crouching light kick into crouching light kick, and then standing light punch, and this should, you know, this should combo. So it's like it gives her some form of 3 lights pressure, which is not bad at all, right? Like this is decent. You still get a good knockdown here, and get to set up your play, which is nice. The final light is the standing light kick. Standing light kick you will mostly be using for the target combo, right? As you can see, the range is abysmal, so it doesn't really work as much or as well as you would expect. It is cancelable to light spiral, so you can do that. You can, for example, do something like this if you want, but typically you're gonna be using it to combo into the target combo, and then combo into the heavy punch DP or the heavy kick spiral, right? This is gonna be the main combo rules. You can combo into it from the jab, standing light punch, as you can see this is 2 hit, or from either of the mediums. So medium punch into the target combo, or crouching medium punch into the target combo, or jab into the target combo. But again, notice that all of this whiffs on crouching opponents, so you have to be careful when you're using this. If you're using it against crouching opponents, you just gotta cancel the light kick into the spiral. And now we are gonna talk about Rose's medium normals, and I'm gonna start with the standing medium punch. And this normal is quite disappointing for me, in all honesty. First of all, you're gonna use this in combo. It is gonna be part of her bread and butter combos because it combos into the crouching medium and the standing light kick. So you're gonna be doing a lot of this, or a lot of medium punch into medium kick drill. This is gonna be the typical. What's kind of disappointing about this medium punch is its frame data. As you can see, first of all, the range is tiny, right? She have to be very close to get this, but the issue is that this is 6 frames and it's only +2, and it's one of the most contributing factor as to why Rose have weak frame traps versus 3 frame. Because it's only +2, you cannot frame trap with it into itself, right? If your opponent does a 3 frame, they will beat you. So for you to frame trap out of it, you have to frame trap into either a light, right, or into the crouching medium punch. And the issue is, if you frame trap into the crouching medium punch, you're gonna be +6, right? So that is nice, but nothing will reach at this point except the crouching medium kick, which is 7 frames, so you will not get this to combo. This is kinda unfortunate because on characters who don't have a 3 frame, so let's say Rashid is now gonna do a slower normal. So if your opponent does not have a 3 frame, she can actually get good frame traps like this: medium punch into crouching medium kick. So against 4 frame characters, she actually get good frame traps. But what can you do about it? Well, versus 3 frame, you're pretty much forced to do this and to hit confirm the crouching medium punch. It is hit confirmable, but that is kinda unfortunate. So the standing medium punch is kinda disappointing. You're mostly gonna be using it in combos. On pressure, it is a lot tamer versus 3 frame characters than it is versus 4 frame characters, and that is kinda unfortunate. One of the cool things about it is that it doesn't have much in terms of pushback, so it allows Rose to do frame traps like this. Right? You can do medium into crouching medium kick, and all of that should reach or connect with your opponent. Again, much more powerful if they have 4 frame, but what are you gonna do about it? It is what it is. The crouching medium punch is a good normal. So first of all, this is 5 frames. Because it's 5 frames, it's gonna be useful in the +2 -2 situations. So let's say Rashid is doing his -2 and then mashing is 3 frame. It is the normal that you will wanna use to actually contest in this situation, since Rose doesn't have his 3 frame by herself, and it combos into itself on counter hit. So on counter hit, you can get to do stuff like that and then set up your game however you want. So one of the main uses for the crouching medium punch is gonna be just contesting in -2 situation. Of course, it is one of the combo enders as well. Another thing that's actually really powerful about it is checking forward movement. So for example, if Rashid is dashing here, it is a good normal to throw out to check out if your opponent is gonna walk forward, and it is hit confirmable. Like you can do it and absolutely hit confirm into spiral and maybe into damage there, or if you aren't sure, just use the EX fireball, right? Get the knockdown, set the soul punish, and get the whole party started. So this is gonna be used for combos and it's gonna be used for checking forward movement. For these purposes, it's really good, and of course, challenging in the -2 situations. The follow-up normal is her standing medium kick, and this normal is very specific. The thing about the standing medium kick is that it is airborne, right? So it is throw invincible to throws. It is throw invincible to throws, of course. And on counter hit, you can actually combo after it. On counter hit, she's gonna be +5, so then you can get a target combo, or of course, medium punch into whatever you want. You can use this to bait throws. So for example, let's set here Rashid to block, right? So let's do something that is massively plus, like a jump in, right? And then you use it to throw bait your opponent. Then you get a counter hit follow up like that. Of course, you can use it on wake up as well. In this application, it is a good normal. However, something I gotta say is that it is negative on block. It is -1. Rose does not have a 3 frame again, like I said. So if you're using it for throw bait, your turn pretty much ended. So you can use it for that purpose. In the neutral, as you can see, the range is really weak. It can go over low hops, but this is not where it shines. The normal that you wanna use in the neutral to go over low hops is the forward medium kick. This normal is severely disappointing. Severely disappointing. As you can see, the range is actually quite nice. It does have good range. It will go over lows clean. So that is good, but it is 10 frame startup, which is punishingly slow, and it is -6 on block, so that is really unsafe. Unfortunately, if this normal was good, Rose would have a much stronger presence in this distance, but because it is so slow at 10 frames and is so negative at -6, it is very hard to use, making the move almost useless, to be honest. I'm not gonna say it's completely useless. You can throw it out every once in a while. Even if it hits, it's gonna be at a +2, so you're not even at Z plus if you happen to land it. But it does serve a purpose of going over lows, but I wish it could be better. I really wish it could. The final normal is her crouching medium kick, and this one is actually really good. It has a lot of range, as you can see. It is cancelable to the spiral and even the medium spiral. It is cancelable into fireballs as well. And you're gonna be doing a lot of fireball traps with Rose. So let's check out like a couple of sequences, especially if you got your opponent to the corner. Like you're gonna be doing some stuff like that. Fireball into it, right? It's gonna be good for stuff like that. So as you can see, the range on it is actually really good. And one of the better things about this is that it's also hit confirmable. So if your opponent here is blocking at random, as you can see, you can hit confirm it. I kinda messed it up this time. It is difficult, but with some practice you can hit confirm the crouching medium kicks. Finally, one of these things that are really good about it is that if you cancel the crouching medium kick into EX fireball, it's gonna leave Rose at +3 and in throw range. So if you're pressuring your opponent, you can simply go like knock them down, crouching medium kick fireball, and then immediately throw them again. So it is very good for that. And like I said earlier, of course, it combos from a counter hit standing medium punch. So if your opponent got hit by a counter hit, you can get this to land. It is very good. It's not very easy to combo into, otherwise you're mostly gonna be comboing into it from counter hit standing medium punch. but the range on this confirm is actually pretty nice, as you can see. Like even from maximum range crouching medium punch or standing medium punch, you can get the crouching medium kick to combo. Let's check out Rose's heavy normal. The first one we're gonna address is the forward heavy kick. Forward heavy kick is a very interesting normal. First of all, it does have a lot of range, as you can see. This normal have typically, historically been very good in Street Fighter games. In this game, it's still pretty nice. The only issue with it is that it only hits crouch standing opponents. So if your opponent is crouching, it whiffs over their head. It have its main uses. First of all, of course, in crush counter punishes. So for example, your opponent does something unsafe, you crush counter into the target combo and get the damage. You can get a crouching medium before that if you want. So this is some decent damage output. Practically, you're mostly gonna be using this in conjunction with the fireballs. Typically from this distance, when Rose throw a fireball, especially a light one, she's gonna be say +10, +11. Your opponent may try to throw a fireball of their own or take back their turn, and bam, you get the CC. So from this distance, throwing out fireballs and then following up with a forward heavy kick to anticipate and crush their following action is what's mostly gonna be used. You can also actually use it to anti-air, and it's an interesting anti-air option because it puts the opponent in a juggle state. It is hard to get any follow-ups after that, at least without activating V-trigger, but it is an option. Like if your opponent is jumping from far range, you can kinda anti-air with this. However, of course, if they are jumping from this distance, the heavy punch soul bind is a lot better and a lot more reliable. So it is a pretty good normal overall in my opinion, gonna be used a lot from Rose players. The other one is the back heavy kick. And back heavy kick is a very interesting normal. We said that Rose struggle from this distance, right? So to avoid it, you will want to be moving backwards, right? And while you're moving backwards, you can surprise your opponent with a back heavy kick. This is what I've mostly been using it for and finding the most success with it. It is a low crushing normal. Rose is considered airborne, so if your opponent hits you out of it, you can actually, you will be considered air reset or you will consider in the air, so you don't actually get punished that hard, even if you got hit out of it. On block, as you can see, it is -4, so a spaced back heavy kick is kinda abusable. Like this is a normal that from range, you can kinda abuse actually, right? And as you can see, it does have some recovery to it, but the range is so big that it's actually hard to whiff. So if you're trying to walk back out of this range, surprise them with a back heavy kick. Obviously, it is also a crush counter, so if you happen to land it, you can dash up. Let's say our Rashid will quick rise, right? Or let's add him to back rise, right? You can dash up and have Oki here, so it is really nice for that regards, right? You don't get much out of this crush counter and you can't activate V-trigger, but it is useful just to throw out in the neutral. It's a useful neutral button, and obviously it's gonna be used a lot in combos, particularly V-trigger combos. So for example, you can do some cheesy stuff with it, something like this, right? It's like such a dumb looking combo, but you can do it. Like it's one of the most useful combo fillers, especially in her V-triggers. For both of her V-triggers, the back heavy kick is a decent combo filler. Now, the final standing heavy she have is the just neutral heavy kick. This is done without pressing any directions. Let's turn on the inputs. This normal have multiple uses. First of all, you can use it out of a jump. So for example, jumping into standing heavy kick, standing heavy kick, EX fireball into medium spiral. This is actually a pretty good damage combo. You will not be able to get this to link out of any other normal. So if you're doing like crouching heavy punch into EX fireball, that will connect, but like standing heavy punch into that will not reach, right? So it is good in that regard. Like being able to use that is actually pretty nice, right? Another aspect of this that's actually really good is that it is a hit confirmable crush counter normal. So for example, if we set the counter hit to random here, right, you can hit confirm into the medium EX soul punish and then get a conversion like that, getting like almost 300 damage, which is not bad at all, right? The issues with it is that regularly it is -2 on block, but you can cancel into the fireball to make it plus. You can kinda frame trap with it into the EX soul punish. That is kinda cheesy, you can get interrupted, but it is an option. Of course, you're gonna be using it a lot in the V-trigger combos as well. And this is actually really good to use in conjunction with the Soul Satellite. If the Soul Satellite hits your opponent, you will wanna convert into this combo for really high damage, or just into the Heavy Kick Spiral for really good damage, or obviously you just wanna combo into the target combo. Like any of these works, but if they are, say, crouching, this is probably the most damage you're gonna get on a crouching opponent, which is still a decent amount of damage. I wish this normal was faster, because it does function in the range that Rose struggle in. Like we said, that from this distance her mediums are kinda weak, and the standing heavy kick does occupy that range, right? But the issue with it is that it is 12 frames starting, so it is a tad bit too slow to be super effective in this range. Wish it was a little bit faster. If this was like 10 frames, maybe 8 or 9, it would be fantastic. You know, this normal would be ridiculous if it was that. You can use it in the problematic range, but be advised, it is slow. Finally, she has a sweep, and her sweep is just a standard sweep. It's not a tremendously fast sweep. It is a little bit on the slower side, but as you can see, the range is kinda ridiculous, right? And you can kinda even cheese with it a little bit, especially in the corner. Let's say you'd land a light punch fireball from this distance, right? Like if you land something like this, gonna be plus 13. You can get a sweep here, right? Let's put Rashid to the corner again. Right? A fireball. If the fireball landed here, you can get the sweep. This is kinda like a guile thing, but if you happen to connect with the fireball, you can get a sweep. This is from a, let's say, just outside of standing heavy punch range, right? So just outside of standing heavy punch range, you can link sweep after the light punch fireballs. So that is pretty nice. It is a very standard sweep, in all honesty. You don't even get that good Oki on back rise, unfortunately. If they back rise, you're kinda too far away to do much, right? You're gonna have to walk into Oki. It's not the worst, but it is just a pretty standard sweep with just a really long range. The other normal that is gonna be very vital to playing Rose is the standing heavy punch. This has gigantic range for a cancelable normal. As you can see, it's very long. You can hit confirm into it, and playing Rose is gonna be a lot of doing this. Walking back and forth, challenging with the standing heavy punch, and then cancelling into the soul spark. Maybe some EX soul punish into dash up throw. Just it is her best neutral control tool. This and the crouching medium kick, right? Like these are the normals that you're gonna be playing the fireball game with, pretty much. I know the explanation is pretty simple, but this is gonna be your most used normal. Very simply put, for doing stuff like that. One thing that you have to be aware, the hurt box is kinda big. As you can see, it is also -6 on block, so you can't really spam it. But walking back and forth, doing the standing heavy punch into Soul Spark is actually pretty nice. The final attack she have is of course the crouching heavy punch. And crouching heavy punch is gonna be mostly used for anti-air purposes. This is a pretty functional anti-air, hits directly above her head, as you can see. It is special cancelable as well, so that is pretty nice. On counter hit, you can actually get some really good conversions out of this, especially in the corner. So for example, if you happen to land a counter hit, you're gonna be +4, you're gonna be able to combo into the heavy fireball. Then you get the target combo into the knockdown, so that is pretty good. And one of the special things about this is you can counter hit combo into it from the standing medium punch. So if the standing medium punch happen to land as a counter, you get a crouching heavy punch. And this is actually one of her highest damage confirms, which is pretty nice. So let's check out the V skills and the notable jumping normals. I'm gonna start with the jumping normals first. She does have two cross hops, the light kick and the medium kick. Both of them are really good. The hitbox on the medium kick is actually really good, as you can see. It's very easy to cross hop and you will get some good bread and butter combo damage here. The light kick can be very ambiguous, as you can see. So both of her cross ups are actually really good. If you do the light, obviously, you're gonna be at a less of an advantage, so go a light combo. And if you do the medium, you are at more plus frames, so you get to do whatever you want pretty much. You're pretty much gonna combo into the standing medium punch, crouching medium punch, bread and butter if you jump with the medium kick. Then she have the jump medium punch. Jumping medium punch is very interesting because this leads to a float state. But this is actually really good because like you've seen, you can special cancel it into the fireball, and this can happen even if you are jumping backwards. So let's say for example Ken is gonna jump in on us, right? You can jump backwards and anti-air with it, and as you can see, you can even like cancel into a fireball, so you are getting more damage on the way down. An EX if you want the added damage. If you're jumping forward, you can juggle into the heavy TP. From some spacing, you can actually get some really cool juggles here. So this is very good. It is very iffy on the spacing, it might work, but you can actually get some really big damage. Like this was from an air to air trade, right? So jumping medium punch to meet them up in the air is actually very good. Finally, of course, the heavy jumping normals, the jumping heavy kick. This have good horizontal range, as you can see. It's hitting from quite a distance, and it is plus a lot. And because it is always gonna be at least plus 12, you can comfortably combo a standing heavy kick after it. So this is a very reliable and very consistent combo, right? Jumping heavy kick into standing heavy kick is very reliable and very good and very consistent. The jumping heavy punch is quite weird. It is faster than you would expect, and the hitbox is big, but it's not as active as you would expect. So it doesn't stay for long. The arc happens very quickly. The hitbox, as you can see, like if you do it too early, you're not gonna connect with your opponent, right? It's not as active as you would think it is. But this is actually good because it is quicker than you would think it is, making it really good for air to air. If you're like jumping and clashing with your opponent, the hitbox on jumping heavy punch is really big, right? So even if you're like jumping back, you can clip them with that. It is a decent jump in, obviously, but you kinda have to do it a little bit late because it comes out too fast and runs out too quickly, right? And that is pretty much it for her jumping game. Rose in general kinda have a floaty and a slow jump, which is a little bit weird, and she does have of course an air fireball. We will talk about it in the special move section, but for now, these are the notable jumping normals. Now let's talk about the V skills, because obviously like every other character, Rose have two V skills. Both of them are setup V skills. The cards you will activate and then an effect will happen, or the satellites where she will summon them and then they will rotate around her. And Rose have 4 cards. There is the white one, this will increase her V gauge. There is the red one, this will increase her damage. So typically the spiral is doing 80 damage, right? If I activate the red card, it will do 88. So you're doing 10% more. The green one will apply the same debuff to the opponent. So Ken is now doing 10% less damage, and the purple one is increasing Rose's chip and white damage. So for example, if your opponent is blocking, typically a fireball like that is doing 10 chip. If we have the purple card, it's gonna do 15 chip, right? So as you can see, with the purple card, you can actually do a ton of chip damage. It goes away after 10 seconds or if Rose get hit. At the end of the day, honestly, the effects of these cards are not as fantastic as they seem. They run out way too quickly, only for 10 seconds. So why should you be using V-Skill 1? And the answer is quite simple. The cards that debuff the opponent, so the purple and the green card, they double as fireballs. So for example, if Ken is throwing a fireball at us here, notice this, the card is colliding with his fireballs, right? Here is the issue with V-Skill 2. V-Skill 2 is a fantastic V-Skill. We said that we're gonna knock them down. Let's have Ken get hit here. We said that we're gonna knock them down, do the soul punish, and then summon the satellite, right? Now the issue is, if Ken is throwing fireballs from full screen, even if you're blocking, right? It can collide with the satellites and take them out, right? So like even if I try to slide under a fireball, it can collide with them if the satellite is spinning around me like that. As you can see, fireball zoning can take them away. So the effectiveness of the satellite are a lot less versus fireball characters. And that's why versus them I like to use V-Skill 1. Even if the effects of the cards is not that great, I can at least build V-Gauge, or at bare minimum I am trading in the fireball war. So for example, let's here set Ken to again throw fireball at us, right? You set up the soul punish, and look at the V-Gauge building, right? We are actively building a lot more V-Gauge with this. And this is kind of the plan, right? It is a very good way to build V-Gauge, and it is really cool to use against fireballs, right? So against fireball characters, I would recommend doing what I just showed, because it will allow you to build V-Gauge quite quickly and quite safely, even if the effects of the cards are not as effective as I had hoped. And of course the card itself is random. When you use a card, it will automatically shuffle to a new one, and this is kind of random, right? Another aspect of the cards that's actually really cool is using them to bait your opponent. The shuffle, which is down plus V-Skill, this is surprisingly fast, right? It's a lot faster than simply using the card. If you notice the recovery, here the recovery is a little bit long. Notice the red bar at the top, right? The red bar under the word frame. When I use the card typically, it's like around 40 frames, right? But when you use the shuffle, it's a lot quicker. And you can use this to bait your opponent. If your opponent is like trying to react to a fireball or trying to react to something, you can use the shuffle to bait them and punish them for it, right? Like Ken is trying to super through something, I'm just gonna use the shuffle and bait him for it. Otherwise, use the satellites, of course, because the satellite is amazing. Again, we talked about the basic formula. Fireball, set out soul punish into the satellite, another soul punish into the satellite. And once you have the satellite down, now your neutral is amazing. You can simply, once you have them, you can simply slide and you will get full combos. You can simply just back heavy kick and you're gonna get good combos. The satellite is an extreme bully tool in the neutral. Even let's say that Ken is gonna be jumping here. Like let's say that we have the two satellites up. Ken is gonna jump in on us, right? And they will shield you from his jumps. The satellites are a neutral control tool. But like I said, the best way to set them up is to have a soul punish on the screen, right? Think of the Soul Punish as the shield that will allow you to summon the satellites. And the best way to summon the Soul Punish is to knock them down. So this is the tempo you're gonna be going for, and once you have that, go wild on them. Rose does have a couple of decent V skills. They do require a lot of casting time and they require a lot of setup, but they are very rewarding once you get them out there. So let's now start to talk about Rose's special move, and the first one I want to start with is the Fireball. Obviously, there is 3 different versions like any other character: the light, the medium, and the heavy. The light one has the shortest startup, so it comes out the fastest, but the projectile itself moves the slowest, while the heavy one takes the most time to come out, has the longest startup, but the travel speed of the fireball itself is quite fast. So for zoning purposes, you will wanna mix things up, right? Like you wanna keep your opponent on their toes, mix up the fireball speed. Rose is certainly a character who can mess around with her opponent rhythm and timing and keep them on their toes by mixing up her fireball speeds. One of the cool things about her fireballs is that you can actually use them in fireball traps. Like let's say that from this distance, you're gonna throw a light fireball. As you can see, Rose is plus 20. This is really huge because this means that you can throw another fireball and still anti-air your opponent. This is with the light fireball, right? And this is actually very powerful. This allows Rose to set up some really powerful fireball traps. Now if you're using the heavy fireball, you can't really do that. But the heavy fireball, the purpose of it is to simply catch your opponent try to move forward or catch them off guard. But if you started with the light, you can go to the medium, right? So this is like one very good fireball trap with Rose. Another fireball trap that's actually really powerful is if your opponent try to take back their turn. So let's say Bison here blocked something like a fireball and he's gonna try to Psycho Axe, and it is typical to throw fireballs from this range. The light one, as you can see, is gonna be around plus 7, plus 8, plus 9, whatever. So from this distance you can throw the light one and then forward heavy kick, and you are likely to crush counter whatever your opponent is gonna do, right? So in this regard, it's actually very useful as well. So her fireballs are not only some decent zoning tools because of the speed, they also are a viable fireballs for frame traps and for fireball traps in regards to jumps. They are really powerful, and you can mix up the speed to keep them on their toes. Typically you're gonna be cancelling into fireballs mostly from normals, and especially the standing heavy punch. This is gonna be your bread and butter for the most part, either raw fireballs like that or standing heavy punch to fireballs. And as you can see, she is really plus on that, right? So that is actually really nice. Another normal that you're gonna be playing the fireball game with is the crouching medium kick. Again, crouching medium kick into fireball and standing heavy punch into fireballs. These are gonna be your bread and butters in terms of block strings. Now let's talk about the EX Fireball, because it's actually really cool. EX Fireball is fantastic because of so many reasons. The first one is that it is very combable from almost all of her normals. So if, for example, you are doing like standing heavy punch, maximum range, max range standing heavy punch into EX Fireball, that's gonna combo. Maximum range crouching medium kick into EX Fireball, it's gonna combo. And notice the corner carry on that, right? Like we carried M Bison almost half the way to the corner, so that's actually very powerful. And one of the best things about this is that it allows Rose to set up a guaranteed soul punish. So let's for example say that Bison is gonna wake up and then do an EX Devil Reverse or an EX Scissors. He's doing an EX knee press here or an EX Scissors. Typically we said earlier that the tempo is gonna be a knockdown into soul punish into soul satellite, right? And the beauty of the EX Fireball is that this is pretty much guaranteed. This soul punish is guaranteed. Your opponent cannot stop you on time, right? For the most part, your opponent cannot stop you on time there. If you notice, after this soul punish, Rose was plus 4. Here was plus 5. So you're still in plus frames, even if your opponent does a wake up sub. Like you can throw the fireball, set up a soul punish, and you're still plus. This is very good, because once you have set up the soul punish, your opponent kinda have to respect it, and then you get to use the soul satellite, which might then allow you to approach your opponent and get a knockdown. So in that regard, the EX Soul Spark or the EX Fireball is fantastic, right? And even if you don't want to do that, you can simply just knock them down. So let's say for something like here, and go for the Oki as you normally would. So you can take the Oki if you want, or you can take setting up the Soul Punish. It's up to you, however you want to play it. So that's actually really powerful. Another thing about it that's actually very good as well is that it's really plus on block. So in block it is +3, and it doesn't have that much pushback. So you can do something like this, still be in throw range, and bam, throw your opponent after. So that's actually pretty powerful. And if you are in the corner, you can actually use this a lot in combos. So if you're in the corner, bam, and you get to juggle this. Maybe if you're a little bit closer, you can actually get a DP here. It's weird that's not juggling on Bison. You should be able to get that on most characters. Maybe there is something specific with Bison, that's why it's not working, but you should be able to get that on the average character. And obviously it's also very useful in her V-Trigger 1 as well, because you can use it and then teleport. It's really fast, right? So you can use it, teleport, and confuse your opponent. And if your opponent is blocking, even if you're blocking, this is still massively plus, right? So an EX Fireball like that into teleport, as you can see, Rose was +16. She's at a ton of plus frames, so that's actually very powerful. Overall, her fireballs are actually really good. Now, the next special we're gonna talk about is the Soul Spiral. And Soul Spiral have many uses. First of all, like every other version, light, medium, and heavy, it is gonna be a combo attack. So the light will combo from lights, the medium version will combo from mediums, and the heavy version will combo from heavies. And they do progressively more damage. Light does 80, medium does 90, heavy does 100. So you're getting a little bit more damage on each one of them, and basically you will cancel into the strength similar to the normal. If you're cancelling from medium, do the medium. If you're cancelling from a light, do the light. And if you're cancelling from a heavy, do the heavy. Now the Soul Spiral is interesting in how that it can set you up to do Soul Punish, but you're gonna have to be very careful, and it's gonna depend a lot on your opponent. It is not guaranteed like the EX Fireball. Let me show you what I mean. So here Bison is gonna wake up with the EX Devil Reverse, right? If you are assuming that he's gonna back rise, you can do the Soul Punish, right? But as you can see, you get punished here. So this is not guaranteed. This is a bit problematic, but this is only applies to EX special moves or moves that are tremendously fast, right? So I don't, if he back rises, I can't set up Soul Punish in time. That is kind of problematic. However, if say Bison try to do an EX Devil Reverse, like this is the normal one. Let's actually try this one more time. You should be able to flex the normal one in time and get a punish. So against normal tackle moves, you should be able to set up the Soul Punish. But against EX special moves like that one, you will not typically be able to. Like characters like Bison, like Alex, like Balrog, they should be able to do their dash punch style attacks and punish you, right? However, if you are expecting this, you can actually use the EX Soul Punish, and that will cover it, right? So here notice that Bison is gonna try to wake up with the EX Devil Reverse again, or the EX Scissors. I'm gonna set up the EX Soul Punish here. Let's get the knockdown proper this time, right? And you can actually catch him here, right? Obviously, the spacing depends, like where you wanna space the EX Soul Punish will vary depending on your pattern combination. I was doing the heavy out of the medium, where I should be doing the medium, whatever. So the point is that you can use the EX1 if you are expecting this. Let's say that Bison is gonna wake up with the EX Devil Reverse, right? This is gonna apply to like EX Devil Reverse, EX Jumps, whatever. You can set up a Soul Punish and still gets to anti-air this. So this shouldn't be that big of a problem. Now, another thing that you kind of have to factor in here is, what if your opponent does a quick rise? If your opponent likes to quick... I'm sorry. If your opponents like to quick rise, you can just dash up and get immunity on them, right? So let's say that Bison is gonna wake up on quick rise. You just dash up into Oki here like you normally would. So you kind of have to keep an eye on what your opponents like to do. If they like to back rise, and typically most people will back rise after Spiral because they know you can go for Oki, right? So most of the times they will back rise here, which should set you up to being able to do the punish. If your opponent is doing a normal move though, you can actually get some really big punishes here. Let's say you're setting up something like this, right? You can get up some really cool punishes like this. So that's really cool. So you're pretty much safe against tackle style attacks, but the EX1 are the ones that you're gonna have to worry about. Another thing that's actually really important is that the EX Spiral is actually invincible from frame 1 to strikes. This makes it actually pretty good to use in the like as a reversal of sorts. Like if Bison here is going with a block string, you can just use it. It is 13 frames, so it's a little bit slow, and it is unsafe on block, but it is a defensive option, right? Like you can use it as a defensive option. It's not a bad idea to do so, right? And finally, one last thing I wanted to say about these spirals is how you can use them in the neutral. They occupy a good space. As you can see, like the heavy one from around the round start range, you can use it like that. You can space them to be safer or safe-ish. The best you can get, I believe, is like -7. If your opponent is crouching, it's gonna be a little bit easier to space as well, right? So you can get a spacing like that, like this -5, which could be okay to use in this instance. It's still like a fast enough attack that you can kind of use to surprise your opponents, right? So it does have its uses like that. Now let's talk about the Soul Punish, because Soul Punish is a very cool attack. It looks awesome and it does serve a really cool purpose. The Soul Punish serves two main purposes. The first one is it's like a bomb that will stay on the screen for a little bit and then detonate. And you can use this time to set up a Soul Satellite. Your opponent kinda have to respect it, right? Like if it's set up in front of you like that, if they approach you, they're gonna get hit because it detonates after a specific timer, and you are massively plus on hit here. As you can see, you are massively plus enough to even combo like a heavy, so your opponent is gonna respect it. And when they respect it, you're gonna set up a Soul Satellite, which then you can use to approach your opponent and kinda force the issue. Right? So this is the main use of the Soul Punish. You can also use it in maximum damage combos. So for example, if we got Bison to the corner, right, it is useful in maximum damage combos, even mid-screen. Like you can get something like that, right, and get a really full knockdown. So you can use it for that. And obviously the way, the tricky thing about the Soul Punish is how you can set it up, right? And like we said, there are three main ways. Fireballs that are uncontested, so something like this, right? Or EX Fireballs, or like spirals, but again, if your opponent is waking up with an EX, it can be hard to set up the Soul Punish. The EX Soul Punish is pretty different because this detonates on impact. So for example, if your opponent contacts it, it doesn't detonate after a certain timer, it detonates after a certain timer, but it also detonates on impact. So it makes it actually very powerful to just use raw like that, and it does serve a big hitbox. And as you can see, you can you can use it to actually buy yourself some time to set up a soul satellite. You can get 2 of them, right? It's like the ultimate wall. The EX Soul Punish is pretty much the ultimate wall. It's a very good attack. It comes out considerably faster than the regular one, so you can use it like that. And you can also use it on block in specific situations. So for example, let's say that you're keeping your opponent in a block string. You can like do a block string into the EX Soul Punish, and as you can see, Rose after a dash was still +2, like she is Z plus here. Then you can throw your opponent. So it is not untypical to do stuff like that, right? It's a way of stealing plus frames. Think of it as Rashid using his heavy or EX Whirlwind into the V skill. It is that type of attack, right? Obviously your opponent can interrupt here, but this is one of the main uses. Another thing that's actually very useful with this is how you can use it in conjunction with V-trigger activation. So let's say that you got a sweep crush counter, right? You can use it for setups like this, or maybe next time you will mix it up. Which side did he have to block? I honestly don't know. It is that ambiguous, right? So it does have a lot of uses in setup. You can use it to set up plus frames. You can use it as a wall to summon your soul satellites. It's a very strong attack. Now, the other special move Rose has is of course the air fireball. And the air fireballs are very interesting and very weird. You're mostly gonna be using them to limit your opponent movements and to bait anti-airs. Like let's say your opponent will try to anti-air you, then you can do that. But if you notice, Rose is still kinda unsafe here, so you kinda have to be a little bit careful with that. You don't want to use it too up close. The EX fireballs are actually really good to use up close though. As you can see, you can use a medium and light one here, you're +13, get a guaranteed poke. If your opponent is in the air, you can use the EX fireball for air to air juggles. Maybe a little bit up closer, right? Maybe you can get something like that, and that is like pretty good damage, right? So it's not bad for these purposes, but they're still kinda iffy, as you can see, not that consistent. The fireball, the aerial fireball and the EX fireball are gonna be primarily used while you're in V-trigger 1, right? Like this is gonna be the main use, because let's say for example your opponent is guarding everything, right? You can do this, launch your opponent and get a punish. It can be hard for him to jump out or pretty much have any sort of movement in instance like that. So they are a little bit tricky. They are not as, so far they don't seem terribly useful. They are not like Akuma tier air fireballs. You can absolutely use them to zone out your opponent, but the grounded fireballs are a lot better in my opinion. But you know, they are useful. Like you can use it to just change the pace and change the tempo. And the EX ones, they move slow enough to be a wall, right? And the recovery on them is actually pretty nice. The final attack Rose have is her Dragon Punch or the Soul Pine. There are 3 different versions, obviously light, medium and heavy. And as you can see, they target different areas. Light is like directly above her head. So again, if Bison is jumping, light is like for the close jumps, from the mid-range or the dash distance like that. Medium is the way to go, and from half screen, heavy is the way to go, right? Maybe a little closer. Here maybe. You will be able to get the heavy. There is something that you have to know though. The Soul Pines have anti-air invincibility only on Rose's head. This means that if your opponent is doing a deep jump, like let's say Bison is gonna do a deep jump, something like this, right? You have to do it really early. If you do it too late, you're gonna get hit. As you can see, I got counter hit. If you're early enough, there is no issue. If Bison is still above Rose's head or at her head level, that is fine, that's totally cool. But if you are a little bit late, you can get counter hit, right? So it's not like a true DP, it's a DP-esque attack, right? Like you can use it to DP, but it is like you have to do it early. It's an early anti-air. And one of the best things about this is the fact that it leaves the opponent in a situation where they cannot back rise or quick rise. You get up a guaranteed Oki. So for example, if we knock Bison here, right, we're gonna dash up and Rose is gonna be at a lot of plus frames. So the Oki here is pretty much guaranteed, right? As you can see, the Oki is pretty much guaranteed at this point. So for knockdown, they are actually really powerful. You typically wanna end your combos into the Soul Bind as much as possible. Like this is the dream combo ender, right? You wanna combo into it as much as you possibly can. Obviously, the issue is that the target combo whiffs on crouching opponent. So it is a good and it is a rewarding anti-air. And you kind of have to be early with it though, but it is a really good anti-air. It's actually really powerful. The EX version is very special because it will set up a wall bounce. As you can see, the range on it is kind of like the medium. It's not like the heavy. It is pretty much an EX version of the medium. But you get to combo a medium spiral and get to, you know, get a cool knockdown. If you have V-Trigger 2 on, actually this works with both her V-Triggers, but if you have V-Trigger 2 on, you can actually get some really big combos with this one. As you have seen in the intro, you can make it as easy or as hard on yourself as you want. We're gonna be talking about the specifics of the V-Trigger later. So now let's start to talk about Rose's V-Triggers, and I'm gonna start to talk first about her V-Trigger 1. And you can think of her V-Trigger 1 as the utility V-Trigger. It is the one that gives her new options. V-Trigger 1 is a 2 bars V-Trigger, and it's an install V-Trigger. It gives Rose a new special move, and that special move is a teleport, right? It is this teleport, and you can teleport to 3 different locations, either backwards, or behind your opponent, or behind your opponent and above their head. Like there are 3 very set locations that she can teleport to, right? And the teleports that goes behind your opponent, these are tracking. They will always put you in the same spot. This actually opens a ton of new utilities and a ton of new options for Rose. One of the first one is of course improved Oki. For example, out of the EX Fireball, here typically you double dash, right? But with this V-Trigger, you can combo into Soul Bind and get much powerful Oki. So that's actually really powerful. Another thing, we said that after the spiral, if Rose is double dash here, she's negative, right? Like for me to be able to throw Kage, she's gonna be at a negative frames. Now with this V-Trigger, you can actually switch sides and maintain the Oki. Right? And notice she was plus in this instant. So that's actually really good. And speaking of that, it also, like you just seen, allow her to actually side switch. So you side switch with your opponent and you maintain Oki. Can even be done from lights, right? So that's actually pretty powerful. The ability to side switch is one of the best things in Street Fighter V, especially if you are in the corner. Now another huge element to this is the ability to actually make your pseudo reversal safe. What do I mean by this? We said that the EX spiral is like a DP, but notice this is minus 26 on block, right? So you can now do the EX soul spiral and then teleports backwards to kinda get yourself safe. So that again is a very powerful use of this V-Trigger. So you can side switch, you can go for improved Oki, you can go for improved safety on your reversal. Obviously you can use it for combos, maybe like get something like this. This is like a lot of damage from a jumping combo, 362 with 1 bar, that is no joke. Obviously you can even like do another versions, right? Like that's some pretty solid damage, right? So it is useful for that. Another use for it that's actually pretty powerful is the use to bait DBs. So for example, If your opponent is like waiting for you to jump, hoppa, you can turn behind them and actually bait their DB. Their DB is gonna whiff, you're gonna land and get the crush counter punish. So it is also very powerful in that regard. There is another utility, for example, and is the improved air to air. If your opponent is jumping, right, you can get improved combos here. You can burn the entire V trigger bar if you want, right, and actually get good juggles. 317 for an air to air without super. That's actually not bad. And one of the best things about it is that you can also use it to force plus frames and force situations in the neutral. Let's say your opponent is plus, or your opponent is blocking, right? You can throw an EX fireball and immediately teleport, right? And look, Rose was plus 14 point blank. And this sequence happened so fast, your opponent will have nothing to do but to take it, right? And that's actually very, very powerful. So even on block, you can simply just straight out force plus frames, force plus situations, and that's actually quite powerful. Another thing that you can do is, of course, the mix-up element of it. And the mix-ups is when you throw a fireball and then teleport behind your opponent, right? So if you're in V-Trigger, you can do something like that and mix up your opponent. One thing I have to say though is I wouldn't recommend using the light fireball here, because it moves the slowest, it will be the easiest to see. If you want to go for this mix-up, use the medium or the heavy fireball, right? You will still get your grounded combos normally, but it's gonna be a lot harder to see because the fireball moves a lot faster, right? Yes, they're gonna see the startup of the fireball, but they don't know that you're gonna cancel. And because the fireballs moves really quickly, they might get surprised by the time you actually cancel. So if you wanna do the fireball into V-Trigger teleport, use the medium or the heavy, or of course the EX. The EX is super ambiguous, right? But if you wanna use the EX, I would recommend using the grounded teleport, because this is the one that you're gonna be able to combo after. Obviously you can also use it for some if you happen to activate the V-Trigger on a crush counter like we showed earlier, you can get situations like these which are actually really, really powerful, or just even like row jumping forward, right? Your opponent does not know that you will, because you can teleport behind as well, so like you can set this up like that, which side you're on. It is actually a very powerful mix-up tool, as you can see. You can use it to really mix up your opponent. Overall, this V-Trigger is pretty powerful. The only issue with it, in my opinion, is that it is a little bit too meter hungry. Many of the best elements to it will require you to use some meter, which is not like a terrible thing, but it is what it is. Typically, if you're using it, you may not have supers that often, but maybe you can actually be more conservative with it and save it anyway. Still a really good V-Trigger. You honestly cannot go wrong with either of her V-Triggers. Now first, let's start to talk about the basic combos, and I'm gonna start first addressing the basic starters. And they're gonna be the standing heavy punch and crouching medium kick, right? These are gonna be the basic moves that you're gonna use to activate into V-Trigger 2 from. And when you do standing heavy punch, V-Trigger activate, you are plus 19. This means that you can combo a back heavy kick, or you can combo a slide, right? And typically you're gonna do one or the other. Let me now show you like a basic combo out of the standing heavy punch route, right? We're gonna do into back heavy kick, standing heavy punch, right? I know this one might look complicated, but trust me, it's really simple. After the back heavy kick, you do standing heavy kick into heavy punch fireball, crouching heavy punch into heavy punch fireball, slide into the target combo, and pick the enders that you want. I will be leaving a link to, or I'll be leaving the notations to these combos in the description below, so you don't get too confused with them. But trust me, practice this simple combo to at least make sure that you're getting value out of it. Now let's take a look at the other combo route, that is the crouching medium kick. You're plus 13 on this activation. This means that you don't get a back heavy kick, and a forward heavy kick will whiff on a crouching opponent, right? So out of a crouching medium kick V-trigger activates, my recommendation would obviously to be a slide, right? You're gonna go for a slide, and now let me show you like a basic combo route out of this one. Right? This is again a very basic and very simple combo route. Again, we'll be leaving the notations to the combo in the description. Obviously, if you are starting a combo from a crouching medium kick, the scaling is gonna be pretty rough. So out of crouching medium kick, I would recommend actually going for resets at this point, and I will be talking about the resets in the next section. So let's now talk about the reset element of this V-trigger, and typically the reset is gonna happen once the V-trigger timer runs out. As long as the timer is ticked down, the opponent is gonna be in a juggle state. So notice all of these kicks will keep Ryu in a juggle state. The second the timer run out, he is gonna get air reset, and you wanna air reset your opponent in situations where it is kinda ambiguous. You wanna create like an ambiguous right-left mix-up or a throw bait or throw situation, right? And now let us see actually a couple of pretty simple and effective resets. One that is actually kinda really ambiguous. It is kinda difficult. It will require a lot of practice. I am still working on it myself. Is the one that I'm gonna show you right now, and it can be done from the standing heavy punch or the crouching medium kick route. Like you can get into the situation from either, right? Right? This time we remained in the front. Next time we got to the back. This setup is actually super ambiguous. Super ambiguous. It can be very hard for your opponent to see which side you are gonna land in, right? And you could even not have realized which one you yourself landed on, because it all depends on the timing on your standing jab to reset and the timing on the jumping medium punch. After some mastery, you will be able to control it. So this is a setup that is very ambiguous. It is kind of hard to do. It does require some timing, but it is very ambiguous, and it's very powerful from my experience. Now another setup I found that is actually really cute is again the combo route from the crouching medium kick we just showed earlier. You can do it, and again of course then slide, do the same combo you did earlier, jab and then cross under. And if you delay the jab, you will remain in the front. So if you do the same thing again, right, you're gonna remain in the front. This one is not as ambiguous as the other one, but it's a lot easier. Either way, I would recommend practicing on these. At least practice on the easy one, get the hang of it, control how you can cross up or not, then maybe move to the more difficult one, which is a lot more ambiguous, etc. Keep it basic. These are two basic setups. Practice them, get the hang of them, and then you can move on to a more advanced setups. Now let's actually take a look now at a couple of the anti-air options and anti-air combos that you can get with this V-trigger. So let's now take a look at the anti-air aspect of this V-trigger, and this I feel is more important than the grounded combos or the grounded resets, because this is the guaranteed damage, right? You're getting guaranteed unscaled full V-trigger 2 combo damage, which is fantastic. The basic premise is very simple. Your opponent is gonna jump at you. Let's here say Ryu is gonna jump. You're gonna activate V-trigger, and then you're gonna anti-air with either crouching heavy punch or the EX dragon punch or the EX soul bind, right? It's gonna be one of these two, and you can make this as easy or as hard for yourself as you can. Now let's take a look at an easy option, right? An easy combo. Activate V-trigger 1, 2, 3 and into heavy punch DP. If you notice, this was 380 damage for a very easy combo. It's very easy, and we got 380 damage, and look, we almost built half of our bar back, so that is fantastic. You can dump even more damage into this and still keep it simple. Heavy kick into DB, heavy kick into DB, and bam, medium spiral. Again, this one is very simple, 450 damage, which is still a lot. Obviously you spend 3 bars on it, so it's a lot more costly, but again, very easy to do and very high damage output. Now you can make it a little bit more challenging onto yourself. Let's check out a combo like that one. Right? This one is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more timing required, but you got 445 damage for 1 bar, and we got even more bar out of it. So this one again is really cool. Now you can go for a meterless route. Now it is a little bit difficult, but it is possible. What you wanna do is something like this. This one is gonna be a lot trickier than the other ones. Right, and then you combo into super. This one is a little bit harder and a little bit trickier because you have to factor in the activation time and the fact that the crouching heavy punch, of course, is a normal. Like, you're not anti-airing with anything with invincibility, so you have to react to the jump really early and time the crouching heavy punch really well, but it is a very good option. So before I leave you with combos, I wanted to briefly talk about Rose's throw game and her critical art. One of these things about Rose that is actually very powerful is her forward throw. If you notice, the forward throw leaves Rose at a plus 11 advantage, and she's relatively close to her opponent, so she can walk up again and throw them. So mid-screen, this is actually pretty powerful. And you are in crouching medium kick range, so if they try to move backwards, you can absolutely clip them with a crouching medium kick, right? So in this regard, her throw game is actually really powerful. Let's say, for example, that Ryu is gonna wake up with a jab. You can immediately standing heavy kick, and this will crush counter his jab attempts. Then you can get that combo, or maybe like even extend it a little bit. Right? 200, almost 300 damage is actually really nice. And because of this, it's actually pretty nice to use as well in the as a shimmy. So for example, after knocking down your opponent like that, you can kinda shimmy with her standing heavy punch, fake a forward walk or not, and then get the shimmy. So that's actually pretty powerful. Now, one thing that's actually very powerful about her as well is the back throw. The back throw does 150 damage to 100 stun. That is a lot. It's a very good round ender. It's a very good move to use if your opponent is about to get stunned. So in general, her throw game is pretty powerful. We talked earlier about how good her text throw was. So having a low shake, having an option to crush counter, having an enough good of a situation to set up a shimmy even mid-screen, and the low shake, that is honestly a fantastic throw game. Her throw game is super good mid-screen. Now, finally, I wanted to talk about the critical art. And Rose's critical art is disappointing in some regards, but in others, it's actually really good. It is 9 frame startup, and the range isn't typically long. The initial hit is 9 frames, but as you can see, like even from this range, it is barely connecting, right? So it doesn't have that much utility to use raw, but it is easy to combo into. Like if you use any spiral, or if you use like any fireball, right? It can be easy to combo into it. One of the best things about this, and there are 2 things about this critical art that's actually really nice. The first one is the fact that because of how it functions, right? It doesn't scale that much in gut scaling. You know how Karen or Sis Super, like they have one big hit at the end that does massive damage? Rose's Super is like that as well, right? Because the initial hits doesn't do that much, and the bulk of the damage is on the final hit, right? So if your opponent is about to die, Or like, will he die or won't he die? She is kinda like Tess and Karen in that regard. Gut scaling does not affect the super that badly, so that's actually really good. Another thing that is very powerful about the super is the fact that Rose does get OK after it. After you do the super, you're gonna be plus 20. So let's check this out again. You're gonna dash up and you're gonna be plus 2, so then you can challenge your opponent, meaty them, or go for a frame trap or a throw, right? So after a dash here, Rose is plus 2 and you are in throw range. So it's actually even good because you're not giving up your pressure. And one final thing about this is, let's say you're in the corner, right? Even if you got them in the corner, it will return them back to mid-screen. So it will return the situation back to mid-screen, but you get OK, so that is not terrible. Overall, Rose is a very fun character. I hope that you have learned something new with this guide today. Obviously, the character is still evolving. These are all my findings and my research up to this point, because I know the character is still fresh and many people would love to play her. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment. I will be leaving a link to the Discord server page and the Patreon page in the description below. Thank you very much for watching and stay safe.